The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Shalom and welcome to the Synagogue. This is a podcast for consenting adults for information, education, and entertainment on BDSM, sexuality, and all things related. If you're not a legal, enthusiastically consenting adult, then
pick up the needle, press pause, or turn the radio off.
For those who remain, now might be a good time to switch to your headphones.
Welcome to the Synagogue. I am your host, and they call me the Rabbi.
Pretty fly for a rabbi.
I put the sin in synagogue, and I am a cisgender, ambimorous, gynosexual, sadistic, bratty daddy doll. Sex therapist by day, kink educator by night, and in both these roles, I help people make their kink a religious experience. While I am a mental health professional, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a replacement for therapy. Seek out the assistance of a trained professional for help with your specific situation. Hosting with me today is my partner, my ADHD squirrel wrangler, my submissive, my brat, my pony, or just my little pony.
Aww.
The gallant to my goofus, little bit.
Wow.
This is episode number 13, and with us today is Master Savage to talk to us about the topic of switching lanes.
Hello, everybody.
In the world of BDSM, the roles of dominance and submission are distinct and well-defined. Dominants typically assume control, while submissives willingly relinquish power. However, there are instances where individuals experience a misidentification predicament, wherein a person initially identifies as a submissive, but later realizes their dominant tendencies. This journey of switching lanes can be enlightening, challenging, and deeply personal. Today we will explore why such misidentifications might occur and the factors behind this intriguing phenomenon. But first, a word from our sponsor. Master Savage's journey is primarily geared towards education and service. It has allowed her to embrace who she truly is, a dark sadistic leather master who loves great conversation with an educated perspective. She is head of house for House of Difference with one owned and collared charge, those in service, and honorary members. House of Difference would not be what it is today and what it will become moving forward without the members of the house. For those who live their truth and don't brag or boast about it, it will most certainly catch her eye. She is observant and comfortable as the comfort grows like a phoenix. She will be authentically herself. She will not be changing for anyone that will dilute her authenticity. She has an open and affirming personality. She accepts friendships/associations with those who are respectful of her and her leather journey, as well as her charges. She has an introverted personality, but once she gets comfortable with you, you get to see her extroverted self. She believes life is short and wonderful. She believes life is too short and wonderful not to take a chance once in a while. She believes submission must be earned, and once received, it must be respected, nurtured, and guided. Her educational pursuits has led her to host/present/teach classes, some of which are changing lanes from right to left, as we'll be talking about today, exploring power, energy, and spirituality and BDSM, impact on individuals and dynamics, controlled predicament, oh shiznit, I'm here, now what, BDSM 101 at your first conference/event, rope bondage and safety, and polyamory. Thank you for being here in the Synagogue, Master Savage. Tell us about switching lanes.
Well, thank you for having me. So switching lanes from right to left is actually my story. How I first got into kink and BDSM, all the way through where I am today and continuing to travel. I started underground. This November will actually be 20 years.
Wow.
goodness, that's a long time. I never thought I would be able to say that, a lot of people in my experience, they tap into their kink side, and some venture into BDSM, but some just stay in kink. And when I came in off of kink, being that nosy, inquisitive researcher that I am. And I basically came across someone who had the same kind of kinks as me, or so I thought. He was a deacon's son, and it always kills me that I sit there and say that I came into kink through a deacon's
That's awesome.
son. For those who have actually seen me in person, yes, I am cute and cuddly and friendly looking.
Yes.
But that can be a little deceiving at times because I have a great imagination and I'm a dark sadist for a reason. But going back, we've all, we've all had that moment in our life where we thought we knew the roadmap of where we were going, what we were going to do with our lives and things like that.
Sure.
And I was one of those people. I actually was naive enough to think that I knew where I was headed. And when I first started out, I knew that I was just that kinky person who wanted to play around in the bedroom and whatnot. And when I met the deacon's son, that bedroom led to an actual play space. Like I said, I was underground, meaning before social media, before the AOL chat rooms and things like that. It was all about who you knew, and everything was gatekept.
Sure.
So we had to be vetted before we could go anywhere and do anything. So the deacon's son was in the military, and he knew people who had traveled all over Japan, Korea, and things like that. And they're more advanced than we are in certain kinks and fetishes. So I was lucky enough to be invited to a party with him. And when I went to this party, I was just wowed. I saw things that, I had only seen in, videos. My parents, my parents had X-rated movies and things like that, and as kids, you stumble across them.
Well, yeah.
And you see these things and you're like, wow, this actually happens. So at that party, I saw people who had collars, had leashes, all these fascinating things that I really didn't know anything about, but I knew I was intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, looking around. I was quiet because, I'm that type of person. I like to observe first. But inside, I was just bouncing up and down like, oh my God, this is amazing. But what I didn't see were females who were in a dominant role. All I saw were mainly men. And the females that I did see, they were at that time called dominatrix. I mean, I know they still call them that,
right,
at times, but they were more so of paid to be in that role. So me and the deacon's son, we went to other parties, but he wasn't allowing me to do the things that I wanted to try and do. I became more immersed in the kink and the BDSM lifestyle. And he was like, no, you're not going to do that to me. No, we're not going to do this. I don't know what you heard, but I was talking and then everything just went dead. So yes, he would not let me do any of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to, learn how to tie people in rope because I saw people, tied up in harnesses and things like that. I didn't want to try it on me, but I wanted to try it on other people. And of course, he was against that. I wanted to, do the flogging and things like that. Again, not on me. He was against that. So basically, everything that I wanted to do, he was against. Because in his mind, it was the female's job to be the bottom. And these were before I even knew what these terms were. And it was the male's job to be the top. So that did not work with me. But then he got deployed to Japan. I stayed in the community that I was in underground, and I met a couple that was in a master-slave dynamic, and they were really good to me. I was not a part of them, but they took me under their wing. So, and the master at the time, basically told me, you're not a submissive, but if you want to learn, then by all means, And the reason why I stopped sitting there saying I made the mistake of going to the right side of the slash, because it was a learning lesson for me to allow me to get to where I am today. But the reason why I chose to go to the right side of the slash is because I did not see women in the role of being in charge back then. If they were being paid for their services. And I knew back then that was not something that I wanted to do. So I started learning the ins and outs of being a submissive. To be honest, though, I was a bad submissive. I was great in service, anticipatory service, all of that. I was great. But when it came to following rules and just following people blindly, I couldn't do that. I'm the type of person that you have to tell me the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how in order for it to process and sink into my head and get me to a point where, yes, okay, I understand what you foresee happening, and yes, I can help you get to that. But it just did not work for me. I was told that I was a horrible submissive. I was made to write lines like I don't know what. I even have a notebook still of all the lines that I had to write. I found it one day when I was going through my storage. And I laugh about it now because I was so stubborn back then that I didn't see why I was not in the place that I was supposed to be. But it's amazing how we sit there and think that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is how I'm going to do it. We don't think of those roadblocks that come in the way. And every time I came across a dominant who wanted to have me in service or wanted to own me, it never worked out. It would last for maybe a year or two at the most. I was never collared, which is probably a good thing. My last dynamic, it was bad because I was basically, he put me into a position where I was the face of his house. He ran a business, and and I was the front-facing person, the one who smiled in people's faces. I was a customer service person, and I was so good at that people thought that I was the head of house, because when we did things, I was the one always out there in the front. And he had a slave, but she wasn't out there like me. Nobody felt comfortable talking to her. They always felt comfortable talking to me. And when that happened, he would become upset with me like I did it on purpose. And my whole thing was, I was doing what you asked me to do. I was being the face of your company. I was helping you with your products. I even built some of the products for him, and he got all the credit for it, you know. But after I left that dynamic, it took me some time to actually get myself together, because I started sitting there thinking, is this really for me? Because I was still, you know, in that mind frame of all I see are men who are in these dominant positions. And I was a very headstrong person, stubborn as well. Um, so I kind of stepped back a little bit, met the father of my son, and thought I was going to have that, you know, white picket fence, 2.5 kids and a dog. I don't know where they get that 2.5 kids from. But,
Toys a question in my head.
right? Like, what's the other half? Where did that go? But, you know, I tried the marriage route. And even though I tried to, you know, spice up our marriage and things like that, I tried to be the good wife. It didn't work out that way. What turned from a great marriage turned into a very abusive and dark marriage. And I started losing myself in that marriage. I lost the person who was headstrong. I lost the person, the woman actually, who wanted to be of service or in service, who wanted to take care and nurture her family, to always being scared of this man when he came into the house. So things led up to a divorce. And after that, I had a, you know, sort of like a come to the universe talk of, what am I really here for? What's really going to make me happy? And part of me was like, this lifestyle isn't for me because I can't find my place in it. I ended up taking a step back, and that's when I met my mentor, Master Sable, and his slave Butterfly. And I had gravitated towards Butterfly. I was in college also working on my master's. And one of my classes, I had to interview someone, and I chose to do the psychology of BDSM and a master slave dynamic. And I met her, and I was a fangirl. I still am, even though she's my leather mother now. I was a whole fangirl because I was just amazed to see someone submit and surrender without question. And it showed me that there was a level of trust. There was a reason why she felt so comfortable to surrender to him. So I did the interview, and I got to meet him for the first time. And it was amazing because I was nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm about to meet this man who's been in this community for 20 something years, and I'm a baby coming, you know, back into it above ground where social media exists now. And not the AOL chat rooms. So when I met him, you know, he was like, at that time I was going by Sasha. And he was like, I've seen you around, you know, I've been watching you. And I know that you're not in a dynamic. You know, what are you doing with yourself nowadays? I said, well, I'm going to school. I'm just here. You know, I don't really know what it is that I want to do. I don't think this lifestyle is for me. So he was like, well, when you get an idea of what you want to do, let me know. And that's like, I'm like, okay, what is it that I want to do? I know I want to finish my master's degree. I know I have a son to raise. And it took me a year. It took me a whole year to figure it out with a little push from him. And I had, sisters, in the community who were D types, but they hid it so well from me. Because it didn't look like what I was used to seeing. So when I started talking to them, they're like, we've been waiting for you to come out of your shell and come over here. And I'm like, what is over here? And they were like, to the left side of the slash. We're female dominants. We're not dominatrix. We're not femdoms. We're not findoms. We are female dominants. We have MSDS dynamics, and I was like, well, I know I don't want to be a submissive. They're like, no, we're not talking about you being a submissive. We're talking about you coming into yourself and being a dominant. So I was still in this mind frame of, I don't know. And then Master Sable came up to me again at another event. And he was like, have you made your decision yet? And I was like, I'm still on the fence. And he was like, okay. He was like, well, I want to mentor you. And in my mind, I'm thinking he wants to mentor me as his slave. I said, well, sir, I'm not a submissive. I didn't make a good submissive. I was great at service, but following somebody is not something that I can truly do. And he was like, what makes you think that dominants don't serve? And I was like, I never heard that question before. And I was like, well, from everything that I've witnessed, he was like, no, if a dominant tells you that they don't serve their community, their house, or their charges, that should be a red flag to you. I was like, wow. And he was like, you can be a dominant and still serve and be of service to your community. You can be a dominant and serve your house that you're in. It doesn't mean that you're less of a dominant. It doesn't mean that you're a submissive or a slave. It means that you're being of service to anybody who needs it. And that was the game changer for me. I didn't realize that as much as I love to serve the community and things like that, I could do that on the left side of the slash. I didn't have to be submissive or be a slave to be in service to someone or a community. So when that happened, when that clicked in my head, it's like the floodgates opened. And I was like, okay, let's go with this mentorship. I don't know what it looks like, but we're going to go with it. And I jumped feet first. He was like, give me 5 years. If you can trust me and just learn everything that you can learn and do several things, I will make sure that you become a master. At that time, I wasn't even in the thoughts of becoming a master. I didn't want to be a master. I just wanted to be a dominant. Not even a dominant that had a charge. I felt I wasn't even responsible enough to be a dominant. So the first year, it was a little rough, the first year, because I was learning to trust someone who had been in an MS dynamic with his slave for 15 years, who had what they called old guard training. He was trained in a leather household that had many dominants, male and female, and many slaves and submissives, males and females. And he had to learn to submit before he could lead. I was like, well, I've already had one part of that. I had the submitting side, sort
Sure.
of. And when that happened, that first year, we bumped heads a lot because we had to learn each other.
Mm-hmm.
I had to come out of my comfort zone and understand that this man was treating me like an equal. Even though he had years in, he was still treating me like a dominant. Where I
Mm-hmm.
had other male dominants who were sitting there questioning me on, are you really a dominant? Have you met the right man to lead you? You just haven't found the right one.
Mm.
And it made me question myself, like, well, are they right? Or should I really listen to this master who is trying to help me be what I want to be? And it was always there because in my professional career, I have always been in charge. I've always led people. I've always been like the manager or director of teams and things like that. I've oversaw offices of 30 to 70 people. So I didn't know why it just didn't click in this world over here. So the second year was a lot better because I actually had those heart-to-heart talks with him. I was like, okay, why did you pick me of all the people out there? And his reasoning was, why wouldn't I pick you? You showed that there are things that you wanted to learn, but you kept coming up against walls. You showed, even though you were coming up against those walls, that you still wanted to stick here. And that's one of the main reasons. He said, my perseverance and my drive is what drew him to me. And in my mind, I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm trying to stay above water, thinking that I'm a failure, and I've been a patched member of his house since I was inducted into his house as a junior master in 2019. And this is where the road definitely, the exits changed on my maps and the rest stops were no longer there. I was on the straight road that was now starting to wind. And during that induction, I was so clueless. Oh my God, I was clueless. He told me to be in a room at Self in 2019 at a certain time. I said, okay. I'm there in my kilt, my Deadpool t-shirt and suspenders with my Doc Martens on. That is how I am. I love wearing kilts, Deadpool, whatever.
Yeah.
So when he saw me, he was like, that's what you're wearing? I'm like, you didn't tell me how to dress. I'm here just because you said to be here. So when I got into the room, it was a room full of people. And he was at the head of the room with his slave and a couple of my other friends and whatnot. And I'm sitting towards the back of the room. And he starts this speech about this young lady that he had met and how he had watched her over the years and was wondering, what the hell is she doing on the right side of the slash? And I started sitting there thinking like, hey, that's what he sat there and said to me. Let me find out there's somebody else out here that had the same thing from him. And he was like, and this woman, every time I give her a task, she knocks it out without me even having to follow up or things like that. And I'm like, yep, that sounds like me. I've done that a time or two with him, still clueless. So then he proceeded to say, Lady Savage, can you come up front? And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, wait, I just got that name. I know I picked that name because me and my leather sisters were sitting in a hotel room at an event going over what my name should be. And I was like, I know damn well somebody else didn't take my name. Still clueless.
Uh-huh.
So when he looked at me, he was like, come on up. So I was like, oh, okay, it's me. And then it dawned on me what was going on. All this time he was talking about me. And there's actually a video of me still in awe of like, oh wow, you were really talking about me. Um so that night I was inducted into House Blue Flames as a full patched member, their first member,
Oh, wow.
as a junior master. And when I say after that night, things turned for me, they completely turned. I was still a baby in this leather lifestyle, but I had people coming at me left and right, you know, asking to be in service, all this and that. And I'm like, no, I don't want that responsibility. I'm good. I can do things on my own. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
It was him who had to end his slave, who had to tell me, you're now on the left side of the slash. There are going to be S types who come to you to ask if they could be in service or if there's anything that you need. And yes, although you're a person who can do things on your own, it kind of gives them, enjoyment as well, because they
Mm-hmm.
are feeling their joys of serving. So I had to work on that. I had to work on allowing people to do things for me. The third year, I was to a point where I was like, you know what? I need to start doing things. I want to do things for the community. And this was also around during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's all these munches and all these events that are no longer able to happen because of COVID. So I was like, I went to him and I said, hey, I want to do a munch. And he was like, okay. I said, I want to do a virtual munch. And it's a way for people to fellowship because we're blocked off from each other because we can't travel for these events. I said, but I want it also to be educational. And one of the main things with Master Sable is whenever I came to him with an idea, he was like, go for it. He would work out the pros and cons with me. And at the end of the day, it was still my choice. As a dominant, it was my choice to do what I wanted to do. So I went ahead and I created a munch. At that time, it was not called Be the Difference Munch. It was just a munch.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I had like maybe 5 or 7 people, and we would just talk about, the lifestyle, what we missed. And this went on weekly for about 3 or 4 months. And I'm like, okay, now we got to dig deeper. So I started thinking of names. I wanted something to be different because all the munches that I had come across, they had great ideas, but they would fizzle out so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? I want to be different. It's going to be a different munch. I kept sitting there saying different, different. And I went to, my leather sisters and I told them what I wanted to do. And they are great with helping with names because they helped me with my name and they helped me with my munch's name, which is Be the Difference Munch. And I started reaching out to people who I knew and who I had met over the years at conferences and things like that. And I asked them if they would be willing to present on my munch. And lo and behold, they did. I was like, wow, people actually are willing to come onto my munch and talk to people and teach people. One of the things that I stressed, this is a free munch. You don't have to pay to join it.
Mm-hmm.
We just ask that you be respectful, no hate speeches, no bashing, nothing like that. Come in like you have some common sense and be respectful. Sit and learn, ask your questions. And within that first year, something that went from 5 to 7 people started building and building. And that first munch that I had somebody all the way from Egypt,
Wow.
I was amazed. I was like, holy shit, I'm international.
That's amazing.
And it's funny because I still have yet to present on my own munch. I am that type of person. I like to push other people out there. If you're a new presenter and I vetted you, and I looked over your research and what you want to present on, I give people those chances. Whereas conferences and things like that would never give somebody new a chance. And I've been there. I know I've been there. So this was my way of giving back to the community, to getting new presenters out there. We love the presenters that have been presenting, but we need new faces. There's a younger generation who's coming up in this lifestyle that we have to give them a chance. We have a bunch of TNGers who know their stuff. And that's what my munch is for, to help people to build on what it is that they want to build, what they want to teach people, things like that. And the munch teaches anything from vanilla to kink to fetishes, BDSM, everyday life, even financial awareness.
Wow.
And real estate.
Wow.
These are some of the things that we've had on the munch. And I think it's been going on now for 4 years, almost 5 years. We accept donations, but we don't look forward to that. I am the one who pays for the platform. I'm the one who reaches out to people asking if they would be willing to present. Or I'll put out things, and this is how I met you all. You all answered one of my posts out there.
Yep.
And that's what I love about the community. You put it out there, people who are interested and want to educate and whatnot, they'll come and talk to you. I still have people asking me, when are you going to present on your munch? I'm like, nobody wants to hear from me. I want to get other people out there. The munch is my way of hiding behind them, in the dark. Because most of the times all I'll do is sit there and announce the rules, and then I'm quiet. Because the munch is there for them. So that's one way that as a dominant, I give back to the community, that I serve the community. I also do I'm in service to several leather houses. I serve several leather masters that are up there in age and are not that tech savvy. I help them with their Google Calendar. I help them with their Zoom meetings and things like that. Some small things like that. Where they get confused, they'll call me up, and I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I got you. Let's do this."
Yeah.
And I don't see it as me being subservient. I just see it as me just helping.
Yeah.
Helping somebody in need. So with my munch that's going on, I've come out of my shell somewhat. After that, a master Sable was like, okay, you've done the first two things. You've come into who you really are. You're doing your community service. Now you need to educate. And I was like, ooh, okay. Educate how?
Yeah.
And he was like, I want you to start presenting. And I'm like, I failed, debate. I was not a good public speaker. And I'm still not. He was like, no, you just need to go and I want you to present. I was like, okay. And I was procrastinating like I don't know what. And he had an event and he was like, guess what? I was like, what's going on? He was like, you're going to be presenting your first class. So get a class together. I want you to talk to the new people who are going to be attending this event. This is going to be their first time attending any event. And I'm like, wow, okay, what can I teach them? And one of my favorite sayings is, oh, shiznit. So, once again, I went to my leather sisters and I was like, oh, shiznit, I got to sit there and put together a class for newbies. And they came up with a title, oh, shiznit, now what?
That is
And
awesome.
I was like, well, damn, you all created this, this title. And they were like, yeah, we created the title, but you have to create the class, which was no problem. So I went back to how I was as a newbie, underground and coming above ground and going to events that I didn't have to be vetted to go to, learning dungeon rules and things like that where I didn't have to be vetted to get into. So my class was a simple 101 class. Be mindful of how you ask questions, and when questions are asked of you, pay attention to those questions because it might not be a question that you're actually, willing to say yes to. Somebody sitting there saying, "Can I give you a hug?" and you say yes. You didn't ask them where they want to hug you at or where they want to touch you when they hug you. Words matter. Those are things that newbies and even some veterans don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
The etiquette of when somebody is doing a scene. You're not supposed to be loud and in the scene like, oh my God, did he really just punch the shit out of her? No, you're not supposed to do that. There were, and those classes that I did for that, it was to see the light bulb go off in their eyes. I was like, oh, they're actually understanding what I'm saying, and I was able to relate to them. And it still doesn't make me comfortable in presenting, but the fact that somebody was actually listening to what I was saying resonated with me.
Sure.
And it all because I was voluntold to teach a class. That's how my cherry was broke.
It's a good way to do it.
Right? Voluntold me, I'm there.
Yep.
I may have a panic attack for a moment, but I'm there.
Exactly.
But I worked on that because one of my goals was to be able to talk in front of people and not be scared. I'm still scared as shit when I talk in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
Or when I talk, period. But the joy of seeing people's eyes light up when they are able to, when they sit there and say, aha, I got it. But after that, I was voluntold many times over. Anytime I present, I'm voluntold to submit to present.
Mm-hmm.
It's never of my own free will. It's never because I'm like, oh, yes, I'm going to go and present that self. No, I have been voluntold to present.
Gotcha.
And it's mainly because Master Sable knows me. I would rather push other people out there to present than to be in the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that limelight, no matter how much I hide from it.
Well, for whatever it's worth, you're not the only one who gets nerves presenting. First class I'm teaching of the weekend every single time. My nerves are through the roof, and I just have to remind myself of the advice my undergrad speech professor gave me, and that was, If you're nervous in public speaking, just picture everybody in their underwear. And apparently I have a really good imagination at these events.
You know, I tried that, but then there are certain people that I look at, I'm like, hey, how you doing?
Wind up even more distracted, yeah.
Now, if you're at a fetish event and somebody's like, well, if you really want me to give you the actual visual, I'm down to do that. So,
Right?
I mean, because that's always an option at a fetish event. Just saying.
Yeah, at some events it's like, oh, all of a sudden everybody's wearing a lot more clothes.
I might have to do that one day. Consensually, if you are comfortable with being naked in this classroom, please do. It'll help me to help you to help me.
Exactly.
I mean, and the thing with Master Sable is, in our years of knowing each other, we've gotten very close. He is actually my leather father. And I really do treat him like a father. Mm-hmm. Because there are times where, like, any child will worry about their parent because they're not taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is me. That is me with the entire House Blue Flames, because over the years we have grown. Now, instead of me being a single child, I have brothers and sisters in the house who are dominant, submissive, slaves, all of that. And I'm very protective of them.
Very cool.
So protective that at a time, he was like, okay, you're going to have to start getting ready to build your own house. And I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm not leaving this house. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here forever. And he was like, no, that's how this works. You have to go and fly on your own. And I'm like, nope. Y'all remember the cartoon with the baby vulture?
Uh-huh.
He's like, no. His mother would try to kick him out.
Uh-huh.
That's how I was. And I'm like, I don't need to have a submissive. I'm good right here. And he was like, no, this is a part of your training. You have to. He was like, either you find one or I'm going to find somebody. And that took me to his story of how he got his first slave. He was given a slave by the house that he was in, and they had to be in a dynamic for a year. They had to work with each other, all of that. And she had to take notes about him and how he handled situations and report back.
Oh, goodness.
What they did not tell him is he had the hard-ass slave in the house.
Goodness.
She didn't take shit.
Oh.
So,
trial by fire.
For a whole year, him and her worked together. They bumped heads, everything. And at the end of the year, she had to go and give her report. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I'm not going to make it. I might as well just quit now, because she didn't like me and we didn't get along. But she actually gave him a fair report. She was honest about the things that he had to work on, areas that he actually grew and became exceptional at. And after that, a year later, he was actually covered as a master.
Very cool.
For me, I was like, oh, hell. I don't want him to give me somebody, because I already knew who he was going to give me. Mm-hmm. And I knew right then and there it was not going to work. So I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. I asked him to give me some months and let me, look for somebody. All the while, the person that I was looking for was actually on a board with me of an organization that I was president of. And there was a no fraternization rule.
Oh.
And I was like, well, crap. This doesn't help me. But once again, things jump in your way for a reason. And I made the decision to step down from president of the organization. And she did likewise as the vice president. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to take my chance now. She's a submissive. I'm a dominant. I've seen her service. She excels at it. The worst she could tell me is no.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came time for me to ask her, I got scared as hell. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to say no. I had a whole speech in my head. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I asked her, I was like, what do you think about being in service to me and then moving, vetting each other and moving into consideration and things like that? And she got really quiet. And I was like, shit, she's going to tell me no. She was like, I'm shocked. And I was like, okay, you can just break it to me. You're going to tell me no. And she was like, no, I'm not going to say no. She was like, I'm just shocked that you actually are interested. Is that a yes? Is that a no? Is that a maybe? Or let's put a pin in it. And she was like, it's a yes. I was like, oh, okay, it's a yes.
Yay!
We're going somewhere. Right? So we sat down and we did a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you we were thorough about this contract, and I'm very simplistic. I don't like to have a lot of protocols because I have ADHD. I'm not going to remember all of them.
Fair.
Yep.
I am all over the place. If you want me to memorize 10 different protocols, I'm lucky if I even get 3 of them right. And our protocols only consist of 3. And that's when we are in a crowded room. And it's primarily on her. Why? Because I might be paying attention to her. Well, not even might. I'm always paying attention to her.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on the outskirts of any crowd. Because I don't like to be in the center of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas she is a people person and she loves to be in the center of the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So we have three signals. They're hand signals that says, look at me, I'm leaving, and it's time to go, or pay attention. That's it. Outside of that, we don't have any of that. And everything that I do is organic. Our relationship, we started off as acquaintances. Then we went to friends, to where we were on a board together and worked together, to a closer friendship, to a sisterhood, and now we are a master-slave dynamic.
That's awesome.
And she's helped me in a lot of ways, continually being comfortable with who I am, taking over my calendar, because I am that type of person, ADHD. I will sit there and double, triple, and quadruple book myself. And I've done it a couple of times. The last one, she was like, ma'am, we are not doing this again. I had booked myself for an in-person panel discussion at Weiner University, to a Zoom panel the same afternoon, just an hour after it, to an in-person meet and greet that was later on in the evening. Mind you, I'm in Pennsylvania for the university panel. Left there with 10 minutes to spare to get on the computer at the hotel room to get onto that panel, for it to only be an hour, thank God, to then pack up everything, jump in the car, and book it to an hour and a half away for the meet and greet. And barely made it. And after that, she was like, ma'am, we are not doing this again. Respectfully, I am taking your calendar. And I was like, okay, I understand completely. So she handles all of my electronic calendars. She left me with the paper one, which is wonderful because I still feel good that I have the paper, but I'm not allowed to touch the electric one. We meet every week, and she asks me what's in my paper calendar, and then she looks at the electronic calendar and she's like, okay, you can do that one. No, you can't do this one unless we change this. And it's work.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I drive her crazy. And she's admitted that a few times. And I've apologized many times. And I know that I will continue to apologize. But this past January, I think I made the best decision by asking her to be the custodian of my collar. She accepted it.
Oh, congratulations. Yay.
Thank you. And on the same night, I also announced the launching of House of Difference. Talk about being a grown-up really quick.
Right? Wow. That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. It was amazing. I was just like, okay, it's you and me, Miss TNT and Lady Savage. We make up House of Difference, and we are going to do this, and we're going to grow. And we are centered around educating and community service. There are several programs, that we are a part of. We do different walks and runs for like Alzheimer's, St. Jude's. We raise money for different things like that. And these are things that I've always wanted to do. And with her help, they're coming true. I now have her along with 2 other people in service. I'm not in a rush to grow my house.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I am. I like to take things slowly. And this past June at Self, it was my 5-year anniversary of being inducted into House Blue Flames. And I was covered as a leather covered master at Self, which was another amazing goal of something that I never really looked forward to having. But over the years of being a mentee of Master Sable and learning all the different leather values, it was something that I cherish. That night that I was covered, I went to sleep with my cover on. It was.
You worked
I
hard
was
for
so
that.
exhausted and just overwhelmed and excited. I went to my room. Miss TNT helped me take my Doc Martens off and my vest, and I was like, I just want to lay here. And she was like, do you want to take your cover off? And I was like, nope, I just want to sit here and just process everything.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I passed out asleep with my cover still on.
Aww.
And I know they have pictures. They took pictures of me, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
But it's still surreal from where I came from in, getting into kink and then venturing into BDSM to now where I am in leather.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And I sit there and think about all the times that I wanted to leave just because I didn't see the things that I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm what I want to be and I'm able to help others, I look forward to doing that. When people, come and see me at events or conferences and things like that, I'm still awestruck that people are coming to me saying, oh, I've always wanted to meet you and I didn't know how to approach you. And I'm like, hey, I'm your friendly neighborhood panda. You can talk to me anytime you want, you know? I still humble myself, you know, because things could have been a lot worse for me on my journey. I've I've met people who are no longer in this lifestyle because of things that have happened to them, you know, and they didn't have a way to come back from it. And if I can help people avoid things like that by teaching them, you know, how to maneuver, how to negotiate, how to vet people, I would definitely do that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of chats that I'm in that I see a lot of new people coming in and they sit there and say, well, I'm new to this. I just want to do all the things. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's not just jump out there and say you want to do all the things, because I can list a lot of things that you've never even thought of. And if you sit there and try and do it, you're going to get yourself hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some people who listen, and then there's some people who don't. And I just wish them well, you know, and hope that they don't get hurt along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been my journey, and I'm looking forward to many more years, you know, to come. I'm meeting a lot of great people, you too. It's great to see the faces that I've seen on the Zooms, you know, meeting them in person. They can see how quirky and weird I am in person as I am on the camera, on, you know, on the phone. I'm that type of person. What you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't change anything.
How long did you spend on each side of the slash?
Oh, so I was a submissive for almost 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like that realm of grayness where I didn't identify as anything. And then for the past 7 years, I've been a D type.
Right.
So I had a little bit amount of time of the wandering person,
Mm-hmm.
not identifying.
Mm-hmm.
In your journey from switching sides, did you ever make a pit stop as a switch?
No. And I commend anybody who can turn things on and off like that. I am not one of those people. I'm either on or off. I mean, just I can't switch. I don't understand how they do it. I don't know if it's maybe my ADHD. I've played with people, I've taught people who are switches, who have come from top space and now are in bottom space. And that's a different experience altogether, because they're trying to come down from top space into bottom space. It's like a power struggle with them in mid play. But no, I've never had the urge to switch. Like I said, being a submissive or even a bottom, I can count on one hand how many scenes I've had as a bottom. And that's not many. I only have 5 fingers on one hand. I just, no.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
Yeah. That's kind of sad, too. I've only had like 5 actual scenes.
I mean, if you think about it that way, maybe, but at the same time, if you're like, I've been about them, 5 times, less than 5 times for a scene, but it's not your thing to do that's actually not a bad thing. That's actually all right, so I was a sub, and I did that, but I did these scenes, and they weren't quite for me. That's that whole, I tried it, and I made sure that I tried it, didn't like it, we're good. So I don't say that's a bad thing.
You had a point there, because I'm not a masochist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a high pain tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy pain.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy giving pain.
That's fair.
And anything that I do on people, I actually test it on myself. So if it's like a solo bottom, yeah, I've been a solo bottom.
Yeah, but that's a little different. But you know, but it's
I practice on myself before I practice on others.
That's fair. But you know, it's still not bad. You know, I ran into somebody years ago when I was first starting off. I was at their farm for the weekend, and she made the comment. She was like, I always tell people to try things, you know, at least once. Or she's like, you try it once. She goes, but you know, got to try it at least, you know, a couple other times. Because she said, you know, what squeaks you one day, eeks you another. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And she's like, you know, but the other is that you got to give it a shot. And you're giving it a fair shake to see if that works for you. And she's like, you know, there are things that just don't work for people. You know.
It doesn't. Now, if my twin, who is a switch, she does rope.
Mm-hmm.
She's a rigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I will sit there and be her rope bunny, you know, as a demo.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only because I've already told her, you cannot hit me with anything if you put me in this rope.
Sure.
So other than that, no.
I mean, well, actually, okay. I'm like, but it doesn't have to be impact to be a bottom floor for a scene.
True.
There's other things.
But no.
Like, nope, I'm good, then that's all right. That's actually not a bad thing. That's a nope, I'm good.
Nothing has sat there and said, ooh, I want to try that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so, ooh, I want to try that on someone.
That's a valid thing, too. We like people like you that are out there like that. Especially, you know, for the plethora of submissives and bottoms that are out there, when you're like, ooh, I want to try that on somebody. Yeah.
Right, but unfortunately, some of the things that I like to do, I haven't really met too many people yet. Like, I'm into cell popping, branding, you know, some of the things that people are just not into or kind of getting around to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there are people out there.
There are.
My submissive, she loves impact, heavy impact. And I give her what she needs, and she is good. In return, I get to try new toys.
That sounds like
so that's always a great thing for me.
Like, that sounds like a great trade-off.
I think so. She might not think so after a while.
So what advice would you give to somebody who believes they're on a similar journey of switching sides?
The first thing is, don't be too quick to identify yourself. Get out there, test the waters, see what you like, and wait, even if it's several years. You know, just sit there and state that you're experimenting. Don't let anybody push you into a certain side because they think that's what you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Find your people, and sooner or later you will become comfortable with who you are, and then you can identify with who you really feel that you are. But don't let anybody talk you out of that, because that's a decision that you have to make, not anybody else.
I think that's some good advice.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like some really good advice.
Thank you. I wish somebody would have told me that. But then I think I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't have all the experiences that I went through. Because one of the biggest things I've learned from being a submissive, it takes a lot to submit and surrender. That trust that they give you is not something to be taken lightly. That's why when people come to me and ask me to be in service, if they can be in service to me, I ask them why. What is it that you are looking for from me?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that you hope to gain for you? It's not a one-sided thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want people to sit there and just say, oh, I just want to be in service to you. It's not just about me. I want you to gain something from this too. Even if it's not ownership, if you are serving me and one day you choose to go elsewhere, I hope that you've learned something while being in service to me, and you can take that to the next person and the next person and grow yourself from that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Valid. Definitely valid.
So before we transition to the part of the show we like to call Inside the Kinkster Studio, is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know about switching sides?
Have fun. That's what this lifestyle is about. We're a bunch of rebels who want to have fun, but do it safely. Death is a hard limit. If you are practicing a craft or just dealing with people, the prime directive is to protect the property, even if they're not your property. If you're borrowing them for a little while, or if you're playing with somebody, be safe about it. Make sure you leave them in a better mental space, or a space where they are good. Don't sit there and hurt somebody with the purpose of hurting somebody. I'm not talking about the play aspect of things, because yes, that's what masochists love. They like that pain, but don't sit there and break someone down and you have no idea of how to build them back up. We're a community of consent, and breaking someone's consent is a very bad thing, and that's something that I strive to never do. Violating anybody's consent. So that is the advice that I would give people. If you are out here wanting to switch up or whatnot, or be in the space that you want to be in, just be safe about it. Be honest with yourself, get to learn yourself, and then go out there and do all the things.
Okay. Well, speaking of fun, we're going to now transition into the more fun part of our show, which we like to call Inside the Kinkster Studio, where we ask you some more fun, some more lighthearted type questions. Are you game?
I'm game.
Woohoo. All right, what is your favorite toy in your toy bag?
Oh, my favorite toy in my toy bag.
Mm-hmm.
They would be my vampire gloves. I made them with the help of a submissive who was in service to me. I was preparing for a controlled predicament class.
Mm-hmm.
And before the class, I was making these gloves, and I asked her to help. And she was like, sure, no problem, ma'am. She did not know that I was making them to use on her during the class.
That's
awesome. I have not used those gloves since, but they are still in my bag because they just make me laugh every time I see them.
That's fantastic.
What is the most useless skill you possess?
The most useless skill? Oh, that's a good one. My most useless skill, memorizing songs that nobody wants to hear playing over and over again in their head. Like the Muppet song, da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da.
That's awesome.
Well, that leads into my favorite question to ask. If you had to have sex with one Muppet, which Muppet would it be and why?
Oh, it would be Animal. Of course. You see how wild he is? Oh, that would be a ride right there. It would have to be Animal. And it would be so much fun. Primal, all of that energy. Yes.
Nice. What's an insult that you've received that you're proud of?
An insult that I've received that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Oh, you are the worst bitch ever to make me feel this much pain.
And what were you doing at the time?
I was beating them with canes.
Oh.
And I have a panda cane.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all of this could stop if you just kiss the panda.
They refused, didn't they?
I get off when they curse at me. When bottoms curse at me, I'm like, yes. So when she sat there and said that, she was like, you are the biggest bitch. I was like, yes.
What is one thing you'll never do again?
One thing I will never do again. Oh, I don't think there's anything that I would never do again. Oh, wait, no. There is. So I do rigging as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next time I will listen to the bottom when I have them partially in their rope harness that they have to use the bathroom. I gifted them a lot of rope because they peed all over my rope.
Oh.
I thought she was joking because she was laughing and whatnot. And when I went to suspend her, she was like, I wasn't joking. I can't hold it.
Oh, no.
And it all came out.
Oh.
And I was like, you just got yourself some rope. So that is a lesson. I will never do that again. I will listen to the bottom when they say they have to go to the bathroom.
Nice. Definitely a good thing. What is the strangest purchase that you have made?
Strangest purchase that I have made.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the funny thing. Most of my toys I have not bought for myself. They were bought for me.
Oh, nice.
And one of the toys is this strap-on that I have never used because I don't know how to use it. I want to say it's a harness,
mm-hmm.
and you're supposed to put the toy in there a certain way,
mm-hmm.
but it does not work. And it's a dragon penis.
Oh.
So it's amazing to look at.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like, this looks like it would do damage, not the damage that I want to do. So that just sits there and looks pretty.
Aww. Aww.
It's pretty because it's black and yellow, my house colors, but I'm like, no, it'll just sit there because it is enormous.
Uh-huh.
I think maybe it should be used for something like fisting or whatnot.
Okay.
But no. Mm-mm.
Fair enough.
Gotcha. Who would play you in a movie based on your life, and what is the title of the movie?
Let's see. Let me think here. Who would play me? I would like Queen Latifah. I think she would be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
The name of it would have to be something the life or the memoirs of Panda.
Nice.
Something like that, yeah.
Very nice.
Of my journey in this lifestyle.
I like
Definitely
it.
something like the memoirs of Panda. Because there are some stories that I have that I'm like, only in this community could this happen.
Fair.
All right, final 2 questions.
Final 2? All right.
Okay.
So, my favorite question. What's your favorite swear word?
My favorite swear word?
Yep.
It's fuck. It can be used in any kind of sentence. It's versatile.
Oh, it's very versatile.
All right, and final question. A mad scientist is performing experiments on you and is going to make one condiment come out of your belly button for the rest of your life. What condiment do you want it to be?
Condiment that I want it to be. Oh, man. Well, mustard. I put mustard on everything almost. And not just a regular plain yellow mustard.
Fair enough.
That works.
That's a funny.
It's definitely one that people aren't prepared for.
Right?
Go figure.
At first I was going to say soy sauce, but then I'm like, no, I don't use soy sauce on everything. It's mustard.
So if somebody wants to contact you or follow you on social media, how do they do that?
So my Facebook is Master Savage Panda. The V is capital in Savage. It's the same on FET and on Instagram. And my email is houseofdiff, DIF, at gmail.com or ladysavagepanda@gmail.com.
And I will put links to those in the show notes.
Thank you.
But thank you for coming on the show. You've been a great guest talking to us about switching lane. For our listeners, upcoming synagogue classes in person and virtual include quills, gua sha, and cell popping, body drumming, and later this year, electroplay for the Be the Difference Munch.
Yes.
For more information on those classes, check our website. But that is it. That's our show. Say goodnight, little bit.
Good night, little bit.
Follow us on Facebook, FetLife, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube as Synagogue BDSM, and on Instagram and TikTok as Synagogue Kink. If you enjoyed or learned something from this podcast, consider making a donation via PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Patreon, or Ko-fi. Username Synagogue, or find those links to all of those on our website, synagoguebdsm.com. Remember, that's synagogue with an I. Also on the website, links to past episodes, upcoming classes, book us as educators, shop our store, and more.
Synagogue hosts and guests are subject matter experts but are not the expert. We believe that, outside of violating consent, there is no wrong way to do kink, except to think your way is the only way. This show is presented from a RAC, risk-aware consensual kink point of view, and not SSC, safe, sane, consensual, because every individual's definition of safe is different based on their own risk profile. The use of the word safe on this show fits our definition of safe, and that does not have to be your definition. Opinions expressed by guests on the show are those of the person expressing the opinion, not of the show.
This is not kosher!
Just a reminder, we try to make our content as inclusive as possible, regardless of gender, orientation, role in the lifestyle, etc. But we do inherently speak from our own point of view. For the most part, substitute our identity with your own to make it work. We want to know when we make a mistake, so we can learn and grow from those mistakes. So if you feel like we did say something that is genuinely offensive, we encourage you to let us know. Reach out to us with your questions, comments, or concerns via our website or call us at 469-269-0403.
Brought to you today by the letters and the number.
Sandy, let's go for Baru!